And we might have an advanced workshop trying to explain how the reasoning tokens work, like why it's a bit different than your usual GPT-4o that you use for homework. So yeah, next slide. So last time we explored some cool tools. We saw things like Claude, Runway, Llama 3, and I mean, those tools were very useful, but as always, we're at the AI Club, we want to make it a bit better. So we started wondering how we could improve on the usage of these tools. And today we're going to teach you one of the latest and most exciting ways that you can do that. So first of all, it's important to understand how we normally interact with a large language model, to know the properties of the large language model that we can kind of grab and exploit, quote unquote, in order to make it better. So I think we can skip this for now, given that we started a bit late. And yeah, let's move on to how you usually interact with your LLM. This is you right now. Yikes, you probably overcomplicate the prompt the way we explained last week. You specify to your desired bot something like, I don't know, my coding task for CSC 3020 is the following. I need you to program it in C. Here are some examples of the input-output test cases, etc. You kind of overcomplicate the prompt. And there's one-way communication with ChatGPT or whatever model you're using, and ChatGPT can screw up. It can give you a potentially wrong response. And why do we say yikes? Well, because it's a very simple way to interact with an LLM. What if this way was a bit better? So a lot of smart folks, mostly from big tech companies, were like, okay, what if we split this one-way form of communication? We kind of make a break in the middle, and we add a few things in between your user, like the user experience, and what you actually see with the chatbot. Things like a verifier model, which we'll explain in just a little bit. And then if you take this concept to the extreme, where you split the line of communication between you and your model, and you add other intermediate steps that are also powered by ChatGPT, well, you can add a lot of them, maybe even thousands, and you can control a little AI army, which is pretty exciting. Not the ones that you see in Terminator, but one that can do any task you want them to do. This is kind of like taking it to the extreme. Who are the soldiers of your army? Well, they're agents, AI agents. The word agent might seem simple, but it has kind of a rigorous technical definition that we'll go over in just a few minutes. So it's important to understand like how an agent works, what makes them separate from a normal chatbot, and then how you can kind of make agents work together for your goals. So what is an agent in AI? An agent is a specific implementation of a large language model instance. So it has to be designed for particular tasks or contexts that it's going to be deployed in. It's trained on custom data, such that it either retrieves the data, as we're going to see in the next workshop, through RAG or through some other data augmentation technique. It retrieves the specific data it needs to achieve the task, or it is fine-tuned on some data. So the actual model parameters, the brain, quote-unquote, of the model is different for the task. Or it could also not be. It could be a general model that you're just specifying with some data. And it has to respond in a predetermined way. So both you and other AI systems know how to interact with the agent. This is all defined in the system prompt, we're going to explain in just a few minutes. So you have seen agents before, probably. If you're an enthusiast of, I don't know, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini just released their agents. They're in what's called a GPT store. So obviously OpenAI wants to make it nice and user-friendly. So they wrapped this technology, these agents, in like a GPT store that you can access easily if you have GPT+. It used to be free, but of course now it costs money. If you have GPT+, you can like browse the store, find one for your task, etc. And there's also just some of the examples of the store, the ChatGPT store. You have Game Time, Tech Advisor, whatever. Here we're going to show a little quick video about Google's response to OpenAI's product, which is gems. These are also like their small models. So there's a learning coach, there's a brainstormer, or more interestingly for us, awaits for you to build your own agent, right? You can build your own agent from scratch. So how do you create an agent? Well, much like they have very specific characteristics that we described before, there's also roughly a procedure you have to follow. And this will come in handy when we start actually creating these guys, so pay attention. First, you have to devise an accurate system prompt. What is a system prompt? A system prompt is an instruction that the model processes as the base for anything else it sees. So it's the idea, quote unquote, that is constantly running in the model such that it determines the way it answers to anything else. That's just a complicated way of saying it is the actor, like the thing is trying to act as. So I don't know if you've tried it, but you know how when you type ChatGPT, you're like, act as a funny millennial like meme. There's one character that does that explains memes to people, and then if you ask it that, it'll try to explain every meme you give it afterwards. That's one of the examples OpenAI has. That's what a system prompt is. It's just a specific instruction for it to act as a thing. Then you have to specify which tools it has access to. So these models don't just act with text nowadays. They can do things like web browse. They can do things like access YouTube videos, maybe access your hard drive, maybe even like a messaging system, or more interestingly for us, custom APIs to apps and to different things that you want to access. So if you want to like build your own website, right? You want it to have a chatbot, then you want the chatbot to have access to your website's API so that it can interact with it. And more importantly, the only way to build a cool agent is to iterate. It's through trial and error. This is really not a done science. It's mostly like even in the actual researchers have no idea what they're doing. They just kind of like iterate and see what the best result comes from the different prompts. So that's kind of how you think about creating an agent. But enough talk. We're going to show you a little demo in the Google Gems API. Why? Because Gems, I think, are currently free. Instead, OpenAI isn't. So there you can see a LinkedIn post creator. I gave it a kind of long prompt. I'm sorry if it's a bit small. You can't see it. But basically, what I did there was give it a prompt describing what I wanted it to do, which was create the description for a LinkedIn post based on like a small collection of facts about what I did. And then the cool thing was that I used AI to actually design a better system prompt. So that long like expansion of the system prompt that you just saw was the AI helping me describe the agent to itself. And then with the long system prompt, which includes things like tagging the post, putting hashtags, maybe adding some emojis to like make it more engaging, then I just told it, hey, I want to make a post about this amazing AI Club Workshop that I attended about AutoGen. And it's like, wow, sounds like a cool idea. Give me some more information about that. Because, you know, the agent has to retrieve information to work well. And then I was like, yeah, I learned about this thing called AutoGen, about agents. And there it is. It crafted the LinkedIn post you should probably post after today. So there it is. You can see it. So you can imagine how these things can be very useful in very different scenarios to automate your tasks, right? And this is just a user-friendly example of how you can do it right now in something like the Gemini Gems Creator, which is just accessible to the public. So again, why should I care? Well, you can, as I just said, automate your repetitive tasks. You can handle things like research, data collection. You can get creative with these sub-models. They can do things like give you summaries for a specific subject. And once we see the next workshop, which is how to prompt them smarter with RAG, you can do really cool things like Aiden's Notello. Shout out to Aiden. Where you like design a more complicated information retrieval system so that it can do something more advanced. It obviously enhances your productivity because it can help you automate these tasks. And then an example would be something like job fields, like applications to different job fields. In data science, in robotics, in finance, they're all using their little custom models. Usually companies now are hiring data scientists and AI engineers to make an expert model in the company's database. So you talk to like, I don't know, Meta GPT, and it'll tell you everything about Meta's new products and about Mark Zuckerberg or whatever. And well, how do you guys do this in an effective way? Say I want 1,000 instances of these little robots doing my little tasks all over the internet. because I want to, I don't know, take over YouTube comment section or something like that. How do I instantiate 1,000 different models? Well, you obviously can't do this from the Gemini API or from things like OpenAI's website. So someone really smart came up with a really cool solution. Introducing AutoGen by our folks at Microsoft. This was a public research paper that they released on a framework about how to do all of this. And it's very exciting, it's very cool. I'm going to show you all about it today. So what is AutoGen? AutoGen is a product from research. It became an open source programming framework to build AI agents and to build them in a way that they can cooperate to solve a specific task. So those are fancy words of saying it's just a way we can all write code in the same style to make a bunch of agents do a bunch of cool things together. It aims to provide an easy-to-use and flexible framework to make agentic AI research faster. So if you want to iterate on a bunch of agents, it's a lot easier if you do it with code in AutoGen. If you want to do things like fine-tuning them on PyTorch, it's also a lot easier to put the data in. And we'll explain a bit more about those advanced use cases some other time. But for now, we're going to give you an overview of AutoGen. There is a way to use AutoGen without code directly. It's called AutoGen Studio. So if anyone's interested, I suggest you write that down. If you do not want to code, AutoGen Studio. You can interact with it directly. It has a little interface. So you create your own agents in the interface and then have them talk with each other. But it has some problems, especially for installation, is a bit hard. So if you're interested in installing that software, reach out to us. We can help you out at AutoGen Studio. Today, we're not going to be looking at AutoGen Studio. We're going to be running a cloud notebook, so you don't have to install anything on your computer. But again, it's a very, very cool tool. You can look it up on your own time, write it down, AutoGen Studio. So more on AutoGen, it's very flexible. So it lets you organize different types of environments where your agents will collaborate. So as you can see here, there's 3 different diagrams of things you can do. You can customize your agents so that they have specific access to tools. That's what we talked about previously. So for example, on the left-hand side, if you see the big AI, that's the direct chatbot that you talk with, like the blue one on the top. The icons mean that the user has access to it, it has access to tools, and it has access to other models. That's what the OpenAI logo means. Then the other 2 logos under it, the 2 little square boxes, the left one is only a chatbot, and the right one has direct access to a coding framework, for example. So it can code Python directly. And it also has access to user feedback. You can have multi-agent conversations, so 2 agents talk to each other and give each other feedback on what they're doing. That way they can correct each other and kind of make their outputs better. You can also make these conversation patterns in very specific ways. You can have them be a joint chat, so the way of every model say is the same, or a hierarchical chat where you prompt one of the models to be like the boss, and the boss has to manage the different inputs it receives from it. It's like underlings. And this became a huge trend with DAOs, and I don't know if you've heard about that, but trying to make a whole company from AI chatbots, or things like Baby AGI, which was a project that tried to make a chatbot prompt itself until it did any task. And that's where it came from. It all was possible thanks to AutoGen. So I want you to start thinking of ideas of how you can apply these conversational patterns. So now we want to give you an example here at MSU of people using AutoGen right now. This is the lab I work at. It's called the Data Science and Engineering Lab. And right now we're working on a project called Tutor System. So the project is just this system where tutors, for example, here at MSU, say you're a TA for 231 or something, they log on and they can learn the material that they have to teach with the help of AI. So here's a little interface. It's really only starting, it's very bare bones. It's made on HTML or whatever. And it asks you a question for the tutor. The tutor inputs its answer, and then the answer goes through a complicated kind of conversational flow that's powered by AutoGen to process that input and to make the output actually help the tutor learn and thus be able to teach better. So this is one of the examples of how they used AutoGen. You have a user, which is the tutor for a specific subject. they answer the question on the knowledge that they should have. Then you have the first model, it's a rephraser. So the rephraser goes ahead and grabs the input from the tutor, and it kind of switches that input to be easier to process by the rest of the models, right? It kind of like rewrites it. Then you have a judger that judges whether that rephraser's output is correct, whether the logic is sound. And if the logic is sound, then it gives it back to the user, it responds. And if the logic isn't, it clarifies the knowledge. It's like, okay, that's actually not how you should reason that with your students. You should probably explain it in a better way. That's what the judger does. And then the tutor model just says, okay, this is the better way. So what's funny is that all of this is barely done with any programming. It's all in English. So if you see that, the data science and engineering lab, like the hardcore, we should be doing like a bunch of PyTorch and a bunch of complicated stuff, and we do. It's just literally prompting chatbots. So it's not that this is like less of a science, less of AI, less of like a technical thing, but that labs are actually using this for their advantage. So there you can see the system prompts that we're going to talk about today. Judge your assistant. It determines whether the expectation is covered. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a role introduction, what it does, what the input data will look like, and what the workflow of the way it should reason has to look like. You have the rephraser, which was what I talked about, the one that helps it feed the information. It just puts it into the format that the other models are expecting. So think about this when you start maybe designing your own AutoGen workflow. You are going to have to make the input have look a certain way so that your other models can interact with it. And this is the code. So as you can see, it's actually pretty simple code because it's just a bunch of API calls to GPT organized in the AutoGen kind of format. So you have the user proxy, which is a word we're going to hear a lot today. The user proxy just means the person that's chatting with the chatbot. It's what you saw on that first screen that I type in. That's just the text that I'm inputting. And then you have something like the assistant agent and the group chat experience or the environment, which is just who's going to receive the text, what agent, and then how are they going to interact with the other agents. What's the environment like? That's like whether it's hierarchical or whether it's like a roundtable discussion, something like that, right? So real quick, now that you know all of this like AutoGen, how it works, we're interested in having you guys discuss a few ideas about what you can come up with. So just come up with an app that you think could be powered by AutoGen or that could be exclusively powered only by a bunch of models. Maybe an app, maybe some way to solve your problems from class. Just discuss for a few minutes with your table, okay? It can really be anything.
Let's say we're creating a CPU to fill out a job application. How do you use this? Back? This is back for.
This is for.
How do you hold this? Oh, it's good.
Hold this. Just point it like that. Yeah.
Try going straight more often. Does that make any sense?
You can show the proof of the box.
They're still talking. Let it die out.
Yeah, let it die out and then.
Because, like, if everyone's still having ideas, I don't want to. Oh, that's yours.
Okay, you're good.
Very talkative. That's good though.
Energetic.
I'm glad he's not dying actually.
There's creative
Like I wanted to die soon, but like, good. I'm glad it's not.
No, creative juices.
Yeah.
This is where people come know it's so
I think these discussions might be the reason a lot of people are coming back from. I feel like a lot of people come back because of the discussions. Because I feel like last year and the years before, it wasn't enough. Yeah, it was just
Like,
it was slide, bombard information, and then here, do it.
exactly.
And then you get to talk to people.
You speak in
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
It's like a little hangout too,
Exactly.
and you get to learn. And I feel like it's the perfect time we have it. So like right after 7, you can go eat. So it can be like the whole like night hangout.
We could brand it like that. But also, look, if you see people not talking, you gotta intervene. You know, like I saw that guy like fall asleep. I was like walking, and then I like woke him up. I was like, but you didn't even notice. It was pretty funny.
Is it dying? I feel like it's not dying out.
Okay, now it's
Right. Should I swap the slides first?
yes.
Okay.
Oh no, just announce that you're gonna swipe.
Hey, so we're gonna give you guys some food for thought that we thought was some ideas that we came up with. We,
Yeah.
so we thought about an AutoGen news helper where we put articles like some, for example, I like tech news, AI news. I like some sport news, like for tennis, let's say. I can have it have a specific news source summarize the articles within like a 10-word 100 summary, so I can read that every morning. It's pretty good. Then there's some for like automated market research. It's been used. This is pretty popular. It's when everyone was scared that AI would be a better trader than actual humans. Then there's the essay feedback tool. You kind of just put in your essay and it gives you back sentence structures or whatever else you may have errors. It's kind of like how Grammarly works with their new AI Pro thing. And then there's music composition. You can generate music based on the mood or genre. It's useful for like small indie game devs. They use it often for background sound. Good for making. It has multiple uses, so don't think of AutoGen as just like something you can use for AI related things. You can use it for a lot of applications. So let's have you guys give it a shot. But before that, I'll tell you what's needed to power AutoGen. As as Daniel said, it's Microsoft has open source, so, but you still need an API key, which isn't provided for free. You have to get it from OpenAI or another AI place you're using, but usually it's OpenAI that you would use. To get an API key, what is an API key? Let's talk about that first. So you have to pay for credits, and that gives you access to the AI models that they have, like GPT Codex, which is the coding one, and DALL, the image generation. Basically, what an API key does is you're able to use OpenAI's like their models, but you can do what you want with them. So how do you make your own API key? You firstly don't share your API keys with anyone because that's your own money you're kind of giving away to people. And the way to get it is on that link. You go to OpenAI's platform and then you make an API key. The way to enable API keys or to use the API keys to use just have credits, so you have to pay a little bit, but it's fairly cheap. But for today, we'll give you guys our API key. It's temporary access, so don't think you can just rob us. So I guess boot up your laptops if you haven't already, and go to our Discord server. Yes, MSU AI, and then go to workshop resources. You should see that under the workshop category. There you should see a notebook link. It should be a Google collab link.
So we're gonna give a couple minutes for everyone to open up your laptops, access the channel, Oh yeah, we're gonna have to light this better for this. Yeah.
Did it open up for you?
Yeah.
It's not working for them. What's the issue?
This is not loading.
The Discord?
Yeah.
Is Stem doing the Stem things again?
I think it's just the Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi. Oh.
If the Wi-Fi's not working, probably 5 gig. Honestly, use MSU Net Guest for. So
Yeah, if you guys are having network issues, switch to like MSU Guest or like the 5G one. Or EDU Roam. I don't know, just try different ones if your internet isn't working. And also raise your hand if you are having any troubles finding it so we can come help you guys.
Yep. Also, if you don't have your laptop or you just don't want to waste your battery, you can just look at someone else's laptop in your table and kind of interact with them for the remainder of the workshop. Okay, so just real quick, I think it's important if we give some context, just in case you've never seen a Google Colab before. I imagine most of you have, but we're just going to give you a brief intro as to what you needed to know. So Google Colab is just a place where you can mesh text with code. That way kind of have an explainer of the code as you go. You can just run Python code cells by clicking the play button or pressing Control Enter. Google Colab has a table of contents, which is kind of like how a book index chapters work. You can just kind of skip through or before the Colab. I hope everyone's opening it now. Google Colab lets you access the files the program creates or that you upload, and you can access them on the left-hand side, right? For today, it's going to be a very simple Colab, so you're not going to need to like load files or write them or something like extreme like that. You're going to leave that for later workshops. You can upload files anyway just by clicking the upload looking button. Damn, I feel like a robot. Okay, so for the Colab right now, what we have to do is create a local copy of the Colab we shared with you, because I don't think it's going to let you access it's not going to let you access the file from the Discord. So you quickly download that file, that it should be on the same channel, Workshop Resources, in the Discord.